Oh yeah, it's my fan fiction.
Wait, what?
In my darkened apartment, I sat and watched the only source of light in the room, which was my television. My mind had been wandering, and I didn't hear what the TV anchor had been saying before they went to the news crew at the site of the latest incident. A man was standing in front of his home in the outskirts of Raccoon City.
Good evening, I'm Mike Deneau. We interrupt this program to bring you this important news bulletin. We are receiving unconfirmed reports right now.
This is Foley King reporting on the scene with...
Yeah, the name's Howard. Came walking around the side of my house. He had a terrible gash in his stomach. He looked pretty messed up on the whole. I seen him coming around and was waiting with my 12 gauge.
He smiled a grin that lacked many front teeth.
And then what did you do?
No maniac's gonna get me. I shot him in the head. I mean, he'd already been shot in the stomach and that didn't stop him.
Well, this is all still pending an investigation.
The camera swiveled over to the side of a coroner's vehicle and several paramedics removing the body of the man that had been shot. That segment ended, but I kept on watching for the next few hours. The next news of note was a follow-up story on the incident with that man.
We've got this in now, an update to this story. A preliminary autopsy on the unidentified man apparently shot and killed by another local man has cast doubt on this story. The coroner has determined that the man had been deceased for at least 3 days.
Stories like this went on for the next day or so. I was starting to lose track of time. It was mid-morning 2 days after the first incident, after a commercial for umbrella brand something or other. The side I'd hoped I wouldn't see was on the screen. Several gray people, all with terrible injuries all over them, were limping and shambling toward a group of policemen. They were using the doors as cover when they opened fire on the people. The shots tore through the bodies of the shambling ones. The shots had almost no effect except for the one that hit one of them in the head. It fell to the ground now completely lifeless. The other RPD officers followed suit and aimed for the heads. There was a last barrage of gunfire, and the segment ended. The news anchors were loudly debating what they had just seen. I had stopped listening, though. The ramifications of what I had just heard and seen got me in a state of panic. They were there, in broad daylight. No more doubting them or what they were. They were the Walking Dead. I decided there was nothing here worth my life. I got up, put on my black leather jacket, and grabbed my keys. I was just about out the door when I paused to take one last look at my apartment. It might have been the last time I see it. That's when I spotted my knife. It's a large Bowie knife. I bought it at a gun shop a few blocks away. I'm sure the name of the shop was Kendo Gun Shop. I guess it didn't matter where I got it. It was still my only weapon. I picked it up and carefully put it in the large interior pocket of my jacket. I don't think I bothered to lock the door. The floor my apartment is on is deathly silent. I walk over to the elevator and press the button to go down. I heard a voice calling my name.
Andrew, hold that elevator.
It was my neighbor, Horace. He had the last few days off, some kind of accident at his job, he told me. I wondered what he was doing. He finally fully emerged from his apartment. He was carrying 2 suitcases. I held the door open for him while he got in. As the doors closed, he asked me what I was doing.
I'm getting out of here before it gets any worse.
I know the creatures. I hope the authorities can handle this. I may know how it started.
What? How?
I can't say for certain yet, but it's something I can't let go.
Horace looked very troubled.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to find a way to share what I know. It's all connected.
What connection do you think it is? Well, what are you going to do now?
I can't expose this in the city. I have a reporter friend. He will help.
The elevator doors opened and we stepped out.
I'll help you find him. Be careful. No one likes a whistleblower.
The lobby is empty. Apparently everyone else came to the same conclusion I did, just sooner. Horace had just realized he had a phone call to make and stayed in the lobby while I went outside and took a look around. The street was quiet and no one was to be seen. He looked like he might be a while, so I thought to start my car already. It is parked a few cars down. I walked over and locked it. But before I could get in, I looked down the street and saw many blocks away several police cars driving past the street I'm on. Their lights were on, but I couldn't hear any sirens. They were that far away. Coming from that same direction was a motorcycle. I didn't think very much of it and got in my car. I started it, checked my side mirror. The motorcycle was barreling at the back of my car. I threw open my door and started running. The motorcycle fell on its side and hit my gas tank. They both exploded. I could feel the heat. I scanned the wreckage for the rider, but could find no sign of him. Horace just then came running out of the building. He thought I was still in the car.
Angelo!
Over here!
But there was fear in his face. He was looking behind me. I turned around and found one of them. It was the motorcycle rider. It was missing most of its right arm, but was still walking toward me with the stump of the other arm out. A police car screeched to a stop just then. I was petrified with fear. All I could think of was to get my knife out.
Get down!
I did. A single shot rang out. The zombie crumpled to the ground.
Angelo, are you hurt?
No, I'm alright.
The policeman started to get back into his car once he heard me say that. I ran toward him and he stopped. I asked him what was happening.
I was on my way to a call that sounded just like this when I found you with that thing.
I couldn't move. You saved my life.
All just part of the job.
He reached into his patrol car and came back out with a handgun. He tossed the gun to me. I almost didn't catch it. He looked me right in the eye and said,
If you see any more, aim for the head. Know what you're shooting at before you shoot. Stay alive.
He moved to get back into his car, but I stopped him again.
What's your name? So I know who to thank.
He flashed a big smile and answered,
Marvin Brannock.
I wonder whatever happened to him. I guess I'll never know. The siren died away. Horace and I went back inside. He had to finish his call. He called the airport and found out that all the planes had been grounded and none were allowed to land. I went back outside and looked at the twisted mess that was my car.
I don't have a clue how to get out of this city on foot.
I might run into another one of them. He came outside and suggested we take his car. The traffic is terrible and the highways were full of people trying to escape the city. The traffic moved at a snail's pace only to grind to a halt.
It doesn't look like it's moving anymore at all.
He was trying to see over the car in front of us. That gave me the notion to get out and look. I opened my door and stepped 1 foot out.
What are you doing?
I'm just getting a better look.
I strained my eyes to see what in the world was stopping us. The cars were starting to move, but to my shock, they were only being diverted back into the city. I jumped back into the car.
What did you see?
They're diverting all the traffic back. No one's getting through.
His jaw fell open.
How could they do this? Do they truly not know?
When we got close to the roadblock beyond the diverted traffic exit, we were able to see who had put it there. The National Guard had solidly set it up. Even at 100 yards away, we could plainly see them in full gear and their M16s in their hands.
We're not getting out that way, at least.
Things had gotten worse in Raccoon in the time we had been on the highway. Many buildings were belching thick black smoke. Others had been nearly engulfed in flames. We exited the highway into an area a half mile from downtown. We turned onto a side street. Horace rolled the car to a stop along the curb. His hands were clenched to the wheel, and he was staring straight ahead.
How can you be so calm?
I'm just calm on the outside. On the inside, I'm just as scared as you.
What do we do now?
You know the military we saw at the roadblock?
I do?
They didn't look like they were going to come to our aid anytime soon. We'll have to find another way out. I'm sure all the other roads are blocked.
But what other way out is there?
I don't know yet. Come on, think with me.
I tried not to pressure him too much. All this had taken an awful toll on him. The car was silent for the next few minutes. My mind wasn't on escaping, though. All I could think about when he talked about the creature's origins.
Where do they come from, Horace?
Can I trust you, Angel?
Yeah, you can.
I work for the largest pharmaceutical company in the world. Umbrella Incorporated is the largest pharmaceutical manufacturer, supplier, and researcher. But that's just what they use as an excuse to research the legal areas of genetic engineering. The biggest areas of research is in viruses.
Like finding medicines to treat them?
No. I helped to build a network for a research facility here in Raccoon. It was very secure. I saw things that I was never meant to. They've spent years and billions of dollars developing a new strain of virus.
I never heard of either. Where is there a facility in Raccoon?
It's a secret facility under a section of downtown. So I was repairing a terminal and its last file transfer was frozen. And I tried to purge the system, but not before I saved the file. The file was not encrypted and was a report on progress. It was so strange, Andrew. It talked about time from infection to reanimation.
What does that mean?
The things that are attacking people. I think they're infected with the virus that was being created by my employer. The file I found said the virus could change a person, and in all tests made them violent berserkers.
It's as likely as anything right now.
He sighed and was about to answer, but a loud bang from my right startled him. I turned to see several people spill out and scatter. They were terrified by something. A creature appeared out of the doorway, mouth agape. It would have followed after them, but it spotted me and lunged toward my window. Horace hadn't shut the car off and peeled out when the thing hit the window. He was panicking and kept accelerating.
Horace, stop the car!
He didn't hear me. I tried to grab the wheel, but he took a sharp turn and I was thrown against my door. We completely rounded the corner and struck an ambulance that was parked, with its back doors closed. The impact knocked the wind out of me, and when I looked over towards Horace, I could see he'd been knocked out. I reached over and felt for his pulse. He's alive.
Horace? Horace?
He stopped, but I could still hear groaning. I sat straight up, and through the shattered windshield could hear that same groaning. It was coming from outside the car. I removed my seatbelt and ran my door open. I can't see where the sound is coming from. I pull out my pistol and listen again. I see the ambulance in front of the wrecked car. The ambulance is in the middle of the street. There are 2- and 3-story buildings lining the sides of the road. The afternoon sun is partially blocked out by the smoke coming from one of the burning buildings on the same block. I heard the moan one more time and zeroed in on it. It's coming from a man lying in the doorway of a nearby building. I ran over to him. Before I got close enough to call out, the man sat up, and I was able to see that he's a paramedic. In his hands is a shotgun. He primes it.
Don't shoot!
I put away my gun. He lowers his.
Are you alright?
No. He tried to stand up, but couldn't.
What happened?
We weren't able to respond to a call from this building right away, and we didn't find anyone alive.
I had to help him to his feet and back to the ambulance. Horace was awake when we got back, except for a bump on his head and a few cuts. He was all right. I had seen the man's name on his badge. His name is Ken. Horace braced Ken as I moved the ambulance up to get at the back doors. I got in and opened the doors.
Ken, did anyone else survive?
I really don't think so. But in that building is a huge cache of guns and ammunition.
I shot a glance at Horace and he did the same at me.
Horace, I'm going to try to get into that building to get at the weapons myself. By myself.
His eyes are wide.
You can't go alone.
I'll be fine. Ken, where is the cache in the building?
It's all in the basement.
I got up to get out of the back of the ambulance, but he stopped me.
You shouldn't go alone.
I'll take it slow and be careful.
I got out and shut the door before they could protest anymore. There it is. A building filled with more of those things. I quietly opened one of the double doors and looked inside. The front office of the buildings was in bad shape. Papers are strewn everywhere, furniture knocked over, and several bodies on the floor too. I slipped in as quietly as I could. I froze when I got to the middle of the room. I changed my course to not walk close to the bodies. They could just be playing dead. There was an elevator at the end of the room and a set of stairs. I paused to consider which to use. The elevator could be faster, but it could drop me into a nest of them. I'd be more in control in the stairwell, but it might also be hard to climb back out if I had to. I poked my head into the stairwell. I couldn't hear anything. The stairwell was lit with a kind of amber light. I looked back to make sure none of the bodies had decided to stop playing possum. There hadn't been any change. It didn't make me feel any better. I decided to use the stairs. A sign next to the door reminds me to use the stairs in case of an emergency. If this isn't an emergency, I don't know what is. The door slammed behind me, and the sudden noise surprised me a little. There wasn't the slightest sound in the stairwell. 2 floors down, something broke the silence. At the bottom of the stairs is a door. There's a thumping coming from behind it. It's slow and steady. The door had a window, and I looked inside. The room was full of what looks like gun racks and lockers. There was a pull string light in the middle of the room. The light was on. I didn't see anybody inside. I tried the knob, but it didn't budge. I glanced down to see a key ring on the floor. The key had to be on it. I picked it up, and when I leaned down to pick up the key ring, the thumping was definitely coming from the bottom half of the door. I finally found the right key and put it in the keyhole. I didn't turn the knob, though. I pulled out my gun. Now I turned the knob and yanked the door open. The thumping was one of them. It's crippled and is on its stomach. It looked up at me and moaned with a vacant look in its eyes. I shot it. It slumped to the floor. I grabbed the thing by the shoulder and dragged it out of the doorway. I stepped into the room and closed the door behind me. The lockers were against the back wall, and on my left and right were the gun racks. In the middle of the room was a table. It had some papers on it. Yesterday's paper. A couple of gun magazines and a diary. I glanced at it. The diary is normal up until about a week ago.
October 24th, 1998, 9:21 a.m. Most everyone has been turned into a flesh-eating monster. October 25th, 1998, 4:17 p.m. I've been trying to save a few tenants trapped in their apartments, but when I finally got into one of the last apartments, a zombie came out from a hole and caught me by surprise. I sent it back to the grave, but I'd be following soon. Under normal circumstances, this bite would only have meant a few stitches and a bad scar, but somehow a monster's bite is always fatal. It must be something in their saliva.
The next entry is hard to read.
October 26th, 9 p.m. It's getting hard to think. I hope the tenants got away. I might have done myself in, but...
The line streaked off the paper. He must have become one of them right then. My eyes darted around the room for what I came for. I found 2 canvas camouflage bags and loaded them full of guns and ammo. One bag was full of ammo, the other was with the smaller guns. I also took a hunting rifle and 2 shotguns. I strapped the rifle to my back and one of the shotguns. I'd be making use of the other very soon. The gunroom had a hall that led into an apartment. Before I left, I went into the kitchen and got a drink of water. It hit me just then that we really might not get out of this alive, that a grisly end is always just a step away now. I snapped out of it and remembered that Horace and Ken were waiting for me. With a bag under each arm, a rifle, and a shotgun across my back, and a fully loaded shotgun in my hands, I was ready to leave. The zombie was still dead. I climbed the stairs, slowly listening for any new noises. I heard nothing until I got in front of the lobby's door. I froze in front of it. There was a thumping coming from behind it now. I quietly turned the knob to where the door would open if I pushed it, and then I kicked it open instead. The door hit a body that still opened all the way. Nearly all of the bodies had now changed. 5 of them. The shotgun, I had only 7 shots. I blasted the one in front of me, and then the one on my left. I primed the shotgun and dashed forward. One more blast, and another went down. The way out was open, and I made a run for it. Outside I was safe, and the ambulance was still there. I tapped on the back of the ambulance, but there was no answer.
Horace, open up!
You made it!
Yes, it was there, all of it.
Ken was lying on a stretcher next to Horace.
That's a relief. Ow!
You hanging in there?
Yeah, how about you? Nobody tried to take a bite out of you?
A few of them were inside, but I took care of them.
I've been on duty for almost 2 days straight. I've seen men bitten and die in just a few hours.
Does that mean that your wounds are...
Not from those things. This one on my arm is from a man who was panicking and waving a gun around He actually shot me. One of my torsos from an explosion in one of the apartments in the building where you found those guns. We need to get moving.
The highways are blocked.
What?
The military closed off the highway and forced all the cars back into the city. They aren't coming to help us, Ken. They're waiting for us to die here.
I don't believe it.
I climbed into the front of the ambulance.
I don't know where to go, but we can't just stay here.
We drove around for a while, with Horace in the passenger seat and Ken in the back seat. We passed buildings in flames, and also a street full of empty police cars with the doors open. I slowed the ambulance and asked Horace if we should stop.
If we stop, I will wait in the driver's seat.
He kept the ambulance running.
What are you guys doing?
Andrew is looking for help. There could be surviving police.
I don't like it.
If something happens, don't panic, Horace.
I'll cover you as best as I can.
He kept his weapon in his hands. I walked to the middle of the street. It's so quiet.
Is anyone here? If you're hurt, we have access to an ambulance.
I primed my shotgun. One of them moans, and I can tell it's coming from one of the cars. It sees me. It starts banging around in the back seat of a police car. It alerted more of them, and the whole street came back to life with dead people.
It's time to go!
I turned to run around the passenger side of the ambulance. As I came around the ambulance, I almost ran into one. I backed up and the reflex shot and caught it in the face. I'm sorry. I almost got us in trouble back there.
Don't worry about it. We were just trying to help. Sooner or later, time's just not on your side.
So what do we do now?
We should find somewhere to hold up. Wait for help.
But they're not coming, Ken.
Dang it! I don't believe we're on our own. I know the government is going to be sending in the National Guard. They'll sanitize anything in the streets. When they show up, we can't be outdoors.
You want to hold up somewhere then?
Yes, sir. It's got to be easy to defend.
Have we even tried to contact anyone else over the radio?
I couldn't reach anyone before that apartment building. It's got to be worse now.
How about there?
I pointed to a stone church coming up on our right. One of the big wooden doors was open.
What is it?
A church. Wide open, it looks like.
It's worth a shot.
We parked the ambulance out of sight. Horace and I load our guns and exit the ambulance. Ken needs to stay somewhere safe. We came out of the alley next to the church. When we exit, we look up and down the street. I looked one way and Horace looked the other. Raccoon City never looked worse. Smoke from burning buildings and the distant wail of the undead.
Come on!
We count to 3 and step in, each of us covering half the room. The door opened right into the sanctuary. Oh man, the smell. Blood and I think intestines and bile. One of them is shambling towards us from the center aisle. Horace fired 5 rounds before he caught one in the head. It wasn't alone. There were 2 to my right. I kicked the first one down and put it out of its misery. Horace took care of the one that was behind it. I put my index finger over my mouth to make a sound to tell him to be quiet.
There!
I'm gonna go check out the rest of the place. Stay here and keep the hall clear. I may have to retreat in a hurry, okay?
I understand.
Just keep your eyes and ears peeled. Dang, lots of dead ones in the church's office too. Someone made a last stand by the way that they're laying. It looks like whoever did this was one of the ones we shot or escaped, I can't tell. I checked all the smaller rooms and found no more zombies. I got back to the sanctuary to find Horace draping a blanket over one of them. We should haul them outside.
Yes, that would be better.
We We dragged all of the ones in the chapel out and piled them behind a small pillar near the doors. I could hear a sudden burst of furious gunfire, then nothing. Now I just hear the wind moving through the city. We take the time to reload our guns.
Let's get Ken and then let's move inside.
He was ready to go when we opened the back of the ambulance. We both propped him across Horace's shoulders and mine. He still held his own gun, though.
Is the inside clear?
Yes, there were a few, but they are gone now.
Good. It's been wild out here. I kept hearing gunshots and screams.
Wait, what's that now?
I think some people were...
No, something ahead of us. It's not the wind. It was there, and now it's gone.
What did it sound like?
It was like nails on concrete. You hold Ken.
I walked slowly towards the end of the alley. The sun was down far enough that we were cast in deep shadows. The dumpster on my left was very full and trash was piled all around it. I focused everything on the left and raised my shotgun. I stop and listen again. That sound, it's not on the left. I turned to my right and saw a mouthful of teeth and a long tongue poking out from the dark side of the wall. Its hands were a huge set of bone claws that were digging into the old bricks. It let out a low hiss like a labored human breath, but not like anyone I'd heard before. I fired and missed. The flash showed me that it moved lightning fast. It moved up along the wall. I fired again. I grazed it this time. It fell and landed on some piled trash. It shrieked and its freakishly long tongue whipped out of its mouth. I fell on my back as it shot it out at me, like a spear. Horace and Ken started shooting, and before the cat could run again, it was mortally wounded. I watched it writhe on the ground, and then finally stop. A pool of blood formed underneath it.
Let's get off the street.
Clouds rolled in as we locked the main doors. Ken was starting to sleep on a pew covered with blankets that Horace had found. I kept watching, looked out the windows, and even opened the door once. Just clouds and the threat of rain. October tends to be a wet month in this city. For some reason, this rain fills me with dread. I started to walk over to Horace when I heard a thump at the door.
What's wrong?
Someone or something may be at the door.
Leave it alone. It can't get in.
If it's someone looking for help,
You know we can't open the door with Ken like this.
we won't need to.
On the wall to the left of the main doors were stained glass windows, smaller ones that faced the front of the building. This one had a ledge underneath. That ledge, though, is about 8 feet up. I climbed onto a table and then up onto the ledge. The windows were old and weren't made to open. I underestimated how opaque they were. I can't see anything. I pull out my knife from my jacket and jab a small hole in the corner of the window. I spot a few banging on the door and a few staggering up the stairs. I climb back down.
It's pretty bad. They're gathering out there.
How many?
Too many. They seem to attract more by just being out there.
The plan is the same as before. We just keep laying low.
I agree.
2 hours pass. More and more of them came and pounded on the door. The moans had become terrible. Horace was affected more than me. He ended up sitting on a pew near the altar. Ken was trying to rest but was having a hard time with all the noise. I've been pacing in front of the doors. The door is very strong and we're relatively safe, but we can't leave now. The numbers out there, we can't handle that many. If they get in, we'd end up dying trying to get Ken out of here. The sound of thunder snapped me out of that train of thought.
That thing we killed outside. It sounds like another one of the experiments in the description from the lab.
It would have to be.
Why would anyone make something like that?
Not by accident. All this is some part of some kind of plan.
I wished I had told my family what was happening here. They'll never know now.
Well, we're not dead yet.
What about your family?
They've been gone a long time. It's just been me.
I'm sorry. I have many siblings and wasn't alone until I came to America. I can't imagine what it must have been like.
I just disconnect. I try to watch out for myself. I don't worry about other people.
That is not true. Ken and I would be dead without you. You had concern for us.
He stood and put out his hand.
Thank you, Andrew.
I shook his hand.
I should be thanking you. I'd have just been alone and...
I start to doze off. I don't think I dreamed as much as I saw, just flashes of things. I was trying to climb onto a car and then was surrounded by those things until the thing with the claws from the alley leapt out, squealing.
What the heck was that?
Ken's voice woke me. It's raining. The sound is faint, but it is rain.
What?
It's a chopper. Sounds big. Military-sized.
It grew louder for a time and then stopped.
Did they land?
Yes, nearby, I think.
Is it the military finally?
Maybe. We should signal them somehow.
Wouldn't the zombies out front be enough?
They might avoid the area because of them.
No, if it's the military, they'll want to destroy these things. I'll try.
The military may not have our best interests in mind.
I walk over to the window, the high one on the left wall. They follow.
I'll set this rag on fire, signal them. I'll just hang it out the window.
I can hear the zombies better from up here. That's not good. I lit it and the rag unrolled out onto the side of the building. The zombies were getting agitated. More moans started up. I had let the rag drop down and it fell into one of them and then set it on fire. The thing looked up at me as it went up in flames.
Did they see it?
Maybe it's best they don't.
I started climbing down.
Well, why not?
The military may be on orders to sanitize the city.
Sanitize? That would kill us, even if we are not infected?
It's the only way to stop the spread of the outbreak. They wouldn't take that chance.
Just then, we all hear a distant machine gun being fired in a rhythmic way, like soldiers with controlled bursts.
Horace, hand me the rifle.
Why?
It's got a scope. Maybe I can see what's coming this way.
I could see, even with the dark and the rain, the zombies were leaving, walking back into the night away from the church.
I can't tell. Something's drawing them away. I can't see anything else.
There's more gunfire. All of them metered like the last. It's got to be military. I can hear men yelling, but it's pretty far away. One zombie stopped following the others and was staggering back to the church. It was the same burning one from before. I didn't hesitate. I fired and brushed it. It stayed down. Suddenly, the distant gunfire stopped.
What did you fire at?
It was that one that was on fire. He was going to come back, maybe burn the door and weaken it. I had to.
I waited and held my breath. From the dark, soldiers appeared.
I think all the monsters have been destroyed.
Is it the military?
I don't know. They're wearing gray commando uniforms. They don't look like normal military to me.
I climbed down.
Maybe you were right. Maybe we should have just stayed quiet.
There's more gunfire outside. It grew louder.
Can't we just hide somewhere in here?
Well, they've got to know we're in here now.
Lightning crashed loudly outside.
I signal them. I'll go out and meet them. If anything happens, just stay in and out of sight. They might believe it's just me in here.
You wouldn't.
It could be risky to go armed.
I'll leave the weapons here.
The doors weren't hard to open, but made more noise now after the beating they'd taken. It's raining in big wet drops. I hadn't seen how many fires are burning until now. Raccoon City is fading before my eyes. The rain got in my eyes, but I could still see them approaching us. They fan out and move around the stalled cars. One of them crushed a creature's skull with his rifle after he knocked it down. Several laser sights appear and trace wobbly marks on my face. I raise my arms and show them my hands are empty.
Who are you people? Who's in charge? I know you're not military.
You are correct.
His accent is thick. I can't place it. He's standing behind the others. He's very tall and carries what I think is an M4 rifle.
Then who?
He walked out from behind the others, and I can see that he's bronze-skinned.
We work for Umbrella.
Well, what are you going to do?
We are here to sanitize the city.
No, you can't. There's still people here who aren't infected.
We know. We will sanitize the infected and evacuate any survivors. Like those men behind you.
He's pointing at something behind me. I look back and Horace and Ken are outside of the church. I look back at the man and now he has a look of pure disdain on his face.
Your names?
I'll give you mine once I have yours.
Very well. My name is Lieutenant Luis Navarro. That is all you need to know.
My name is Andrew Kent.
I'm Horace Strada.
Mr. Strada, you're looking for several Umbrella employees that have gone missing since the outbreak began. You're not on my list, Mr. Strada. You men were barricaded in the church?
Yes.
You will stay here until we can begin the evacuation.
It's too dangerous now. Why wait anymore?
Because we are soldiers first. Your wounds, where did they come from?
A man panicked and grazed me. There was an explosion anyway.
That's what he said, and we believe him.
Fine. We will be back in a few hours. Then we'll evacuate you all, and we will see your friend is telling the truth.
Navarro gestures and his men began to march.
Do not become infected, Mr. Strada. Umbrella will want to talk to you about what has happened here.
Navarro and his men disappeared into the rainy night. We had started to walk toward the church.
What was he talking about, Horace?
My former employee is the pharmaceutical research giant Umbrella. Umbrella caused this disaster. I was going to share what I know with the media once we escaped.
Your company would kill you over it?
I wouldn't put it past them. We get inside and close the doors behind us.
You know we can't let you go with Navarro.
How else are we supposed to escape then?
Think about it. Those soldiers got into Raccoon City by chopper. They landed it somewhere nearby. I used to fly for the hospitals all around the state. We could take it.
How are we going to take it? They have to have left mid-guarding it.
I don't want to harm anyone, Ken.
Maybe we won't have to. If they landed it on a roof, they might have left it unguarded.
Andrew?
We have to try. There's no other way out that I can see, but I don't want to kill anyone either, Ken.
Okay, the streets are full of cars. The ambulance can't get through all that.
We'll have to go on foot.
Can you make it, Ken?
To get out of here, I'd walk the whole way barefoot on broken glass.
We took turns helping Ken over the heavier debris. The rain had stopped and the sky was clearing. The power had gone out sometime since we met Navarro. All the streetlights are off. The wind's blowing pretty hard, but there's howls of those things echoing in the streets too. Horace has been helping Ken over the debris at this point. A building collapsed nearby from fire and is blocking part of the street. The weapon bags are heavy. I keep darting my eyes around. I can't focus on anything for very long. The fire that caused the building to collapse was still burning and was making dancing shadows around us. I hear a distinct moan nearby, but the echo obscured it. Suddenly a whole mob spills out of the alley. Over there! I help to pick up and shoulder Ken. Horace shot at them. I don't think he caught a head in the bunch. Ken emptied his handgun into the mob. We dropped a few of them. We load fresh magazines and fire again. Closer targets were easier marks, and so we downed 4 more.
That building, look!
He saw the unmistakable outline of a chopper against the night sky.
I'm sorry, guys.
Well, we're not dead yet. The moans are becoming beckoning shrieks. A set of glass up the door shattered as another herd of them piled out into the street. Keep moving with Ken. The helicopter's on the top of that building. I was furiously reloading the shotgun and grabbing 2 more magazines for the Beretta. I'll slow them down.
Do not sacrifice yourself!
I won't have to if you guys move faster! The street we came through is full of wrecked cars. So far the mob is still behind all of those. The closest are on my left. I opt to use the Beretta at medium and save the shotgun to retreat with. I aim and pick each shot. In the muzzle flashes I see more and more joining my attackers. It would take about 2 minutes for them to reach the building. I back up, drop the empty magazine into my hand and slide in a fresh one. I took an instant too long. It won't get close enough for me to make out its face and see its teeth. Yeah! We're turning the tide!
Don't stop with the story!
I kicked it against the nearest car and I think I shot it in its mouth. I backed up slowly and began blasting at the thing's legs as they got closer. They weren't stopped. They'd only be crawling now. There's so many now. I think it's about 30, give or take. The noise is drawing more out. Everything is empty. One dove for me and I managed to dodge it. I make a break for the building. The building's front glass is all shot out. This might have been a bank, but I didn't know this side of town very well from before. I feel glass break under my feet as I stepped to listen for more of those things. The soldiers had taken all of the zombies here out. Their bodies litter the lobby. To my shock, the power in this building is still on.
Angelo?
Horace sounds like he's up ahead around the corner. He walked around from the corner. He looks so relieved. I lived.
The elevator is coming down. I think it's still working.
The mob had just reached the lobby behind me. They're moaning loudly. I could make out some heavy steps behind them. They grow louder and louder. Come on, come on!
It's here! Get in!
The zombies were hurled aside as a man dressed all in black, at least 8 feet tall, somehow barreled through them and slid to a stop near us. It was looking for something. I didn't watch anymore. We piled into the elevator. With the doors closed, I could hear the elevator music start. I'm exhausted, my mind is racing because of what I just saw.
Are you alright?
You look worse than me.
I mashed the stop button.
What the?
Two things. We need a minute to reload and get ready for what's up there, and...
What?
There was something else in the lobby. I don't think it saw me. It looked like a really big man, but like an infected person too.
I don't mind getting ready. Whatever it was, we left it on the first floor.
We reloaded the things in silence. The doors opened and the lobby floor looked covered in bullet-ridden bodies. I step out. The bodies, in the low light, I can't see if they were infected or just survivors Navarro and his men shot. I tried to step around, but then I stepped on a hand anyway. I looked back and saw something moving behind Horace and Ken, who were trying to navigate the bodies.
Get down!
They moved and I managed to shoot something in the dark.
I didn't see it!
Moans start from all around us.
Over there! The stairs to the roof!
We open fire. There's so many in the dark around us. We move, but more block the path. The hall ahead has roof access on the stairs on the left. More staggering around the corners ahead.
Go!
I stop and pump the last rounds in the shotgun into the mob. Horace and Ken pass and enter the stairwell. I turn to follow, and an infected clamped a death grip on my arm and sunk its teeth into my shoulder. The stairwell door closes. I tried to shoot the one that's clamped onto me. I grazed its skull. I could hear Horace yelling inside the stairwell. The thing made a gurgling sound as it clamped even harder. I slipped out of my jacket and stabbed it through the eye with my knife. I left both in the hallway. I almost ran into Horace as he threw the stairwell door open. My skin isn't broken, but my shoulder still stings. The remaining monsters piled against the door. I slipped into the stairwell and instantly felt the stairs lurch and then start to shake.
Andrew!
We sprint up the stairs and turn the corner. The shaking is getting worse and I don't know why.
The thing you saw, it's coming up the stairs, isn't it?
The last small section of the stairs is above, just ahead. We crash through the door. We rush out into the chill night air. The helicopter's on the roof, but I can't see Ken.
Where's Ken?
He's in the helicopter already.
The chopper had just started to spin up. The roof access door exploded into rubble. The men in black followed us. We all turn and fire. Our guns do absolutely nothing. I tried a headshot and got a bullet into its eye. It slowed, but it's only angry now. Horace looks at me in horror.
Got it! Get down!
I heard the whir of the helicopter's main gun. Horace and I scramble out of the way. The minigun cut a bright orange beam at the huge man in black. It roared as the rounds poured into him. He staggered until the force of the bullets forced him right off of the roof. I could hear it bellowing all the way to the ground.
Let's go, boys! We've overstayed our welcome.
We lifted off and saw the horror of the city below. There was gunfire in the streets. That means there's some people down there. And I could see hundreds of those things making a writhing mass in the streets in every open place. We were eventually intercepted by the government. They demanded we land, and we ended up landing a long way from Raccoon City. We were quarantined for days. They briefed us, and we were allowed to watch the news in our biohazard unit. 3 of us were watching when a helicopter crew, a few miles outside the city, interrupted the usual news about the disaster. The camera caught sight of a plane, and after an uncomfortable silence, a flash of light, and then a monstrous wind struck the helicopter. The reporter was shocked and horrified at what he saw. The cameraman turns to face a mushroom cloud over what was Raccoon City. The city's gone. And with it, all the evidence. All we have now is the story.